So I remember waking up to Christmas of '96 and finding my very own Nintendo 64 under the tree. I was blown away from the multitude of games, 3D graphics, and oddly enough, the controller itself. The Nintendo 64 controller is one of those love it or hate it situations, and I find many people are pretty evenly spread across both sides of the fence. But unfortunately, with the rise of, controllers dying out, analog sticks wearing out, it's getting harder and harder to find a good working factory N64 controller. So a lot of people are having to turn to third-party solutions, which is why today we are taking a look at the Brawler 64 from RetroFighters. So after opening the very aesthetically pleasing packaging, you'll find a couple items. You'll find an instruction booklet going over all the different buttons and features of this controller. Second up is the Brawler 64 itself. And immediately you'll notice a huge difference in the look of the controller over the original. Don't worry, all of the buttons are still here, plus a couple more have been added. First up, and probably the most obvious, is that the Z button, which was formerly located on the middle prong backside of the original controller, has now been given a twin and moved to a much more modern shoulder position. Second up is a turbo and clear button on the center of the controller. So this is really neat because you can add turbo function to any button on the controller. All you need to do is hold the turbo button and select whichever button you want to add the feature to. Once you've had your fill of super speed turbo action, all you need to do is press clear and the function is removed. Next up, moving to the back side of the controller, you're going to notice the oh so familiar expansion port. Now, I am happy to report that rumble packs and memory cards work fine with this port. However, for us Pokemon Stadium fans, the transfer pack will not work. I also cannot speak on the Hey You Pikachu microphone that was bundled with the game, as it seems like mine has run away over the years. But the Retro Fighter controller here looks great, but how does it actually perform against the original controller? Well, after many games and hours of testing, here is what I have found. Right off the bat, the Brawler 64 has substantially better hand feel over the original. This kinda goes without saying due to the more modernized layout, but I felt like it was important to include that in this statement. And the first suite of games I tested out were racing games. I threw in Mario Kart and Cruising USA. Right off the bat, I could tell that the Brawler was a good controller to use for these games. The thumbstick is still just as sensitive as the original, but due to its more dome rubberized texture, you feel much more in control over your movements. And all of the buttons seem to be laid out in a pretty good location where they're easy to access and control the vehicle. After doing a few hot laps, I decided to throw in a shooting game. So I put in James Bond GoldenEye 007 and ran the first mission a few times. So, bit of an odd job here, but I actually prefer the original controller over the Brawler for this game. And the main reason for that is due to how you aim and fire for a right-handed person such as myself. So when you aim with the right hand shoulder button and go to fire with the left hand Z button, you'll notice that it's very easy for your thumb to move ever so slightly on the thumbstick. This, of course, is detrimental to your aim, where you really don't have that much leeway to begin with. But it did screw me up for the first little while. I'm sure you'll get used to it after a while and it won't even be an issue, but it was something I felt kind of hindered me when first picking up the Brawler. After jumping off the dam a few times, I decided to play something a little more arcadey. So I put in Rampage 2 and forgot to record game footage. But what I did find was that the Brawler was at home on this title as well. All of the buttons, again, felt like they were properly located. I didn't have any trouble picking up this game and playing it and doing pretty well, considering I didn't play this game for many years. So after playing Rampage for a while, I decided to go with the Brawler 64's namesake and play a fighting game. I threw in Super Smash Bros. And immediately could tell that this controller was designed for fighting games. All of the buttons were just the perfect location. The way the thumbstick just has an agile, rubberized grip. My movements were precise. I didn't feel floaty. I didn't feel like I was overstepping or overrunning. And honestly, it felt at home. It felt very familiar. I'm not the best Smash player to begin with, but I felt like my gameplay definitely improved by using the Brawler 64. So with that all being said, it's time to compare apples to apples. So I paid $39.99 for my Brawler 64. Am I happy with my purchase? Absolutely. I feel like this controller falls in a very important place where, you know, I've said before, factory controllers are getting hard to find in good working order. Not to mention, with the resurgence of people picking up old consoles, the N64 controller can be a bit of a turnoff. So if people can have a more modern, familiar controller, they're gonna be more comfortable and they're gonna wanna play their old games. And I feel like playing their old games, it's not really a hindrance on the experience. If anything, there are some pretty big improvements across different games. So I would recommend the Brawler 64 to anyone, but will it replace my N64 controller? I gotta say, I love my N64 controller. I'm definitely not going to be throwing it away anytime soon. But if I want to pick up and play some games, I'm probably going to grab my Brawler for the foreseeable future. So that is that. Thank you for sticking around. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to sound off in the comments. Let me know if you've picked up a Brawler and how you enjoy it. Also, be sure to follow me on all the different social medias. Links or tags to those will be down in the description below. And I will see you all in the next video. See ya.